There are a number of bright spots for ag today, but there are also, of course, as you know, multiple challenges as producers do navigate rising input costs and also market volatility. Tony Adkins with Specialty Risk Insurance joins us now to review how they're helping farmers in this process. Tony, thanks for being here. I know that you're joining us today from Florida. Not exactly, I think, what a lot of folks think of as cattle country. So talk about what brings you there, the conversations that are happening around agriculture and insurance right now.
Yeah, it's definitely not the feedlot. I'm a little out of my element myself, but it is pretty weather down here, sunny and cool, and getting to see a little bit different stuff. So, but no, what brings me down here is, we're blessed pretty good to have some really deep relationships in insurance and marketplace, and those that focus on commercial ag. And half our job is managing those relationships with those insurance carriers. So this week, we're actually down here visiting with some executive leadership of one of those agricultural insurance companies and having specific discussions about what agriculture looks like today. And, what kind of risks are popping up, opportunities that are out there, and needs of our producers. Things look different across the country now. You got rising input cost, operating cost, certainly a lot of volatility, historical cattle prices and whatnot. And that all, is great, but communicating that to an insurance company and what the need is out there so they can adjust their appetite and their product offerings is really half of our battle.
Let me ask you, how are insurance companies responding? What are you seeing and hearing?
Well, you kind of get into the discussions that we've had is related around market volatility and rising input costs and operating costs and high cattle prices. And, you're talking about Iran and how those effects are impacting our fertilizer costs, operating fuel costs. We don't know how that's going to affect our commodities going forward and our export trade. So, well, how that translates into insurance is, and typically we meet with a policyholder once a year, maybe twice a year. And, things to consider is as we go through there, you might have inventory values of grain in your bins or cattle inventory that just goes to the roof, and you're unintentionally underinsured, So those are some things that we're talking about. And are there any solutions that an insurance company can provide out there to kind of help fill that gap in the meantime? There's a softening market out here in the marketplace right now, and these insurance companies are leaning in and they're wanting to get aggressive and offer some new solutions. So our job is to fill that gap and to communicate what's going on in the field per se to the insurance company and let them know what we need for our producers.
I love that, Tony. Let me ask you right now. I mean, I would think this is a situation where producers need to be proactive, get ahead of it before there's an issue. So what should they be doing? Maybe something that they should be doing better to manage their own risk there.
I think a lot of it has to go back to communication, and I remember Kevin said several years ago, the best thing that we could ask for is time, your time, and communicating to us what you've got going on in your operation. We do our best to stay in front of it and know what's going on in the marketplace and what the trends are and what the export trades are, and know what the pricing is set in at, and kind of have an idea of what your storage is or whatever your operation is. So we'll tend to make those calls, but time would be a big factor in that. And the other thing that I would say, particularly for cattle operators now, is to focus on the tools that you got. And one of those right now is price discovery, and there's a decline in inventories, not just in cattle, but in sheep and goats from what I'm reading, and a higher demand for protein than ever. And where that price discovery ends up at, we don't know, but we've got some pretty good network of livestock markets around the country that help establish that price discovery and then set in a guaranteed payment. I mean, they're bonded, and there's some oversight there from a custodial account standpoint, and they're going to make sure that sellers and buyers both, get the product delivered that they bought and that was represented, and that the seller gets paid. So, you work all year. It's definitely not time to lose out on somebody not getting paid, and you want to get everything you can out of them. And so that's one thing. The other thing that I'd probably say is, um, you know, just being aware of your on form storage, and
Hmm.
if something's going to change, just give us a call and let us discuss that with you and make sure that we don't end up in a unintended uninsured situation.
Well, boy, one thing that you guys do, you go out into the areas, you get into the region, and communication, obviously a big part of this. Tony, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Safe travels to you, by the way. Safe, of course, getting back to your home state. Tony Adkins with Specialty Risk Insurance.